everyone, hey, congratulations on the participation of these comics for both Godzilla and Kong.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
So I guess I'll toss in the first question, and I think Robert is probably the best one to answer. Robert, at which point did you guys know that you guys were going to do prequel comics for Godzilla versus Kong?
Yeah, so, Legendary Comics has been doing graphic novels that tie into the Godzilla and Kong movies pretty much from the beginning. So it goes back to 2014 with our first book, Godzilla Awakening, which was tied into the Gareth Edwards movie. And then we did a tie-in Birth of Kong to the Kong movie, not to go through them all, but we've been doing this pretty consistently with every film in what we call our MonsterVerse. So, it was pretty much an automatic decision. And what we always try to figure out is, what's going to be additive to the story, the mythology, and the franchise. And that's kind of the cool thing we're able to do at Legendary Comics, being part of the same company that's doing the films and TV series.
Terrific. Well, let's start with Marie first with Kingdom Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get the the original idea to basically come up with a story for Audrey for this to tie towards the movie?
So some of that concept was originally brought to me when I was auditioning for the writing position. I was given a very limited creative brief, and I wrote a pitch for that. And the creative brief was largely just about an ace pilot and trying to get into well, I don't want to spoil too much for the movie, but this ace pilot and the mission that was in front of her, and it was definitely a woman. And then it went through a few different iterations, but ultimately we settled on this idea of a character who has gone through a trauma related to Titans, and specifically this is, you can see this in the preview stuff, but involving the villain of this comic, Camazotz, and this fighter pilot trying to prove herself, but also struggling with her own demons, and then tying that in with Kong and what's going on with him, and how do these two stories converge. And part of the process of writing the comic was figuring out thematically how they converge. What was this story about? And for me, ultimately, it was about collaboration. In a sense, it's this idea that I don't think you can separate Kong as a character from his relationship to humans. And I think so much of this story ultimately became about learning to trust people to have your back. And that was sort of that became my guiding principle for this comic, was how can I communicate that sense of empathy and collaboration between people, and also people and Titans. And that was sort of what that ended up becoming.
Well, obviously that leads to the human qualities of Kong, which we will observe in the movie, of course. Greg, what was your approach towards Godzilla? Because it was a lot different from the Kong comic.
Yeah, because Godzilla's different, and he's this kind of gigantic, godlike force of nature, and he doesn't, like Kong, have very many qualities that you could think of as humans. So the challenge with writing Godzilla was to try to find this alien viewpoint, right? This viewpoint. I mean, there's no dialogue in the comic because he doesn't talk, and I don't have him thinking either, right? He just sort of experiences things in his own way. And I'd written for the novelization of Godzilla King of the Monsters, I'd written a brief chapter from his point of view, and it was something that I did with some trepidation, and I wasn't sure at all that was going to work, but I guess it worked well enough, for them to ask me to do essentially a graphic novel of the same thing. So I approached it as one portion maybe mythology, and one portion Animal Kingdom documentary.
Wow. Zid, is it pronounced Zid or Zide?
Oh, Zid.
Zid.
But,
Zid,
yeah.
you worked with Legendary Comics before, so this is technically a return for you.
Yeah.
Could you talk about working on Kingdom Kong and the artwork that actually proceeds with this?
Yeah. What about it that you are interested in specifically?
Well, I just in general, because I do love the artwork. It's very specific.
Well, yeah, being called again, I guess I was doing something right. So I'm more thrilled and more humbled and fortunate, to say the least. It's an honor to be illustrating Kong again. The first time I was doing it in Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, it was quite nerve-wracking because Robert was saying, "Hey, we have this project for you," and it was quite detailed. I said, okay, what was it? And then I heard it was Kong, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is definitely a dream come true." And I was more nervous this time around because we kind of set the bar somewhat quite high for myself, even in Skull Island, and it's like, am I going to be able to live up to the standard that I did? Because we did Skull Island in a totally different pacing, because we separated the story into multiple issues, right? But for Kingdom Kong, it's one whole package of a graphic novel, so everything was just like boom, 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 boom. The stamina to keep going is definitely not like when with Skull Island I could rest for a bit for per issue. This one is just straight ahead, and with Skull Island, every issue that comes out, you can hear feedbacks from readers, and for Kingdom Kong is just what you see is what you get in one go, like a TV series as opposed to a movie, right? And of course, there's an update on how Kong looks like, and how the environment looks like, and always having the paranoia if your drawing is consistent with what is going to come out in the movie. But I try my best, and even before I started, when Skull Island was out, the trailer was already out, so I can somewhat match the look from the trailer to. I can exemplify how the lightning looks like. It was a bit of a yellowy, but it was around the 60s, 60s to 70s, 60s, I think. And in Kingdom Kong, it's somewhat in the augmented reality of the future and present. So I was just wondering. I was asking Robert, how does it look like? What's the lighting going to be like? And pretty much it was just a guessing game from there. And so far, from what I've seen the movie, and I'm glad it looked quite close, quite close.
Well, Robert certainly likes it. He's nodding his head.
Yeah, absolutely. I love both books, but yeah, having the opportunity to bring Zid back after Birth of Kong, and his just familiarity with what we were trying to do, and having to kind of evolve it, no pun intended, because Kong does change a little bit from where we saw him to where he ends up in the movie, so we had to accommodate that, and it was really fun to work with Zid again. And I'm extremely happy with both books. They exceeded my expectations, and I say that very sincerely.
Well, we were going to lead to you, Drew. Apparently, Robert already had good comments about your artwork too. So, talk about your approach on the on this Godzilla graphic novel.
And I'll also mention Drew is returning to the MonsterVerse as well, having worked on Godzilla Aftershock.
Yeah, we got a very definite Team Kong and Team Godzilla going on. I'm feeling pretty proud of it. I guess my approach was different this time than Aftershock for sure, because there's not the human element involved, and we're not seeing Godzilla through other people's eyes as much as, you know, from his POV, which was a really fascinating change in format. And so I felt like Godzilla needed to act a bit more in this. It wasn't just about, you know, like just rampaging, you know, angry shots. It was about trying to create a personality for him without, you know, humanizing him, which is, you know, it's kind of weird, but, you know, I got into it, and, you know, and his interactions throughout the book affect him. And so, you know, we want to see how those affect him. You see him getting a little tired, a little worn out. He definitely is, you know, doing some traveling, and he sees a good bit of action. And so, you know, I feel like I was trying really hard to make Godzilla that you see by the end of the book, you know, a bit different, a little bit more, you know, matured by the whole adventure, you know, from beginning to end. You know, just kind of what I was thinking.
I've got to say, Drew, that I love the action sequences, but my favorite panel in the whole thing is when he's swimming with the whales.
Oh,
there's just something so perfect about that image.
Oh, it was so fun. You left me a lot of good room to move and do some things I really was, you know, interested in trying with Godzilla's environment, and to show how he's interacting not with or with the world around him, and, you know, more so than just being under attack and you know, with fighting the military and such. It was really a joy to get to spend time in all the environments you provided in the story. It was great.
Well, we know Greg's favorite panel. Marie,
okay.
Marie, do you have a favorite panel from Zid?
Oh my God, every panel is beautiful. Like I have said off the record before that, like, every time I would get pages either from Zid or from the editorial team, there were a few times that I almost burst into tears because they were just so exactly what I had imagined in my head. Like a few that come to mind specifically are moments, you know, there's moments with Kong. There's obviously the image that's been used for a lot of promo art of Kong lifting up the spirit tiger. And like the like composition and like the coloring are so striking, and it's exactly what I wanted. And like there's again, no spoilers, but there's a very quiet moment featuring Audrey. And I remember in my script, I had specifically said, like, you know, oh, it's in like a West Coast, like an In-N-Out burger, because I'm originally from Southern California. And I was like, yeah, put it in like a beachy, like burger joint. And I remember I got that page of Audrey in this burger joint, and I literally just choked up because it was perfect. It was exactly what I had wanted. And yeah, it's so hard to pick because everything Zid draws has so much character and beauty. So, and I truly could not ask for a better collaborator on this comic.
You're too kind.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Hey, Zid, real fast. Have you ever been to an In-N-Out from Malaysia?
Never, ever, ever. I've only been out of the country for just a few times, and even before the pandemic, just a few times.
They have A&W there, right?
We do have A&W here in California. Yeah. Greg, you for your comic, you introduced a ton of monsters for this. Was that based off of anything, or did you basically had to create them for yourself?
No, for the most part, they were created. Scylla, the one he's fighting, and I'm going to point out that that I also placed the first fight in the comic against Scylla, the big squid spider thing. That's here in Savannah. That's on Tybee Island. And there are a couple of clues there to it. But so Scylla was, I guess she wasn't in the movie, was she, Robert? And yeah, at the very end, yes. And they showed her coming out of the desert. So Scylla was in the former movie, and so was the only thing I think I really may have created out of whole cloth was the sort of swarming fish with the what did I call it? But anyway, with the sort of monster fish. Everything else was basically a Titan that already existed in the MonsterVerse, and then maybe been glimpsed in an earlier movie. But I got to do a little bit more with them. And then there's one that was pretty new, but had already been created there.
So Drew,
yeah, sorry, Gabe. I was just going to interject. We have a pretty cool group at Legendary, part of our marketing group called the Mythology Team. And they get to sit around and come up with monsters, and built out a lot of the monarch mythology. And those folks have done, it's like, I wish I could share it all. It's just so much, so many toys for us to play with for the franchise teams, video games and comics and novels, what have you. So, we were able to take some of those, and some of them are very locked in, and some of them are a little more sketchy, and we're able to kind of build upon them, the premises that they had worked on for those other Titans. And it's just a really fun part of the group. We get to sit around at the office back in the old days and talk about monsters, and that's a big fun part of Legendary and kind of what goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that as part of kind of what the whole franchise team is able to do.
Well, I was going to say, Drew, with all these Titans, you must have a very fun delight to draw all these creatures up for yourself.
Oh yeah, it was quite fun, and there was a little bit of design here and there, and just getting to pit them up at a reactor. It was a blast. It's like being handed the key to the really good sandbox with all the cool toys.
You're freezing a little bit on my end.
Yeah.
You guys froze on me.
Oh.
Yeah, I just lost you guys for a second. Now you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with Godzilla Aftershock, which Drew illustrated, it was, it was tying into the King of the Monsters movie, and there was a bit more of a monarch element in terms of the human heroes in our universe. Monarch will also feature heavily in Kingdom Kong. But on this one, I was able to say to Drew something you don't often get to say from a publisher or even editor perspective. We're going to do a whole story, and it's pretty much just monsters. There's going to be no humans. How does that sound? And it's kind of, I think most artists are like, yeah. And Drew certainly greeted that with enthusiasm. Yeah. So it was definitely very different, and we wanted it very different from Kingdom Kong, which is much more, as Marie said, about this character Audrey and her journey, and how her journey and Kong's journey are parallel. So that the two books have a pretty different approach, which we're happy about.
And Marie, how much did you know about the movie? Because you have to sort of introduce certain characters that ties into the movie.
Well, when I first started, when I was just doing the pitch and everything, I had no information at all. And it was a lot of going back to what had already come out and trying to piece together what it was going to be. And then once I was brought onto the project, I was given the shooting script, and I was to get context for what I was introducing. We also worked really pretty frequently with the mythology team. Like if I had a question, I would write to them and be like, "What is this? Like, what kind of aircraft are they flying? Like, what is the level of technology that we're seeing and stuff." So as far as the actual movie goes, I have not actually gotten to see it yet, but I have read the script, and I know I knew what was going to be happening. And the big goal for me in writing it was setting up the circumstances that we start at in the beginning of the movie, because this book sort of precedes it by about a year or 2 years. So giving people a chance to come to terms with the new status quo.
Excellent. Well, let me wrap it up with one last question, because Marie Marie, it would probably be the only person who probably could not answer the question. It's because some of us have already seen Godzilla versus Kong. Without going into deep spoilers, what is your impression about the film? Because I know Zid is probably the only one who actually saw it on the IMAX screen.
Oh yeah.
Lucky.
Go ahead, start us off, Zid, and then the rest of us will give us our opinions.
I would say it hits where it needed to. I left the cinema crying.
Wow.
It's grand. It's grand at it. The paternal side of me, it hits really hard. I can say that as much. And the scale is just stupendous, as the biggest as the Titans themselves.
Who else have seen it? Greg's seen it.
I've seen it, yeah. But I saw it on a laptop, so I didn't get that experience. Exactly. But even on a laptop, it still feels really big. And I had read the script, obviously, and because I did the novelization of the movie, so I was kind of deep into this thing by the time I saw it. That at some point decided that just from the visual aspect, I needed to see it, and it was stunning. The colors, in particular, are just beautiful. The monster fights are incredible, and the whole thing was just kind of joyful in a way. I mean, I didn't leave it crying. I left it feeling kind of better about things, but I really did enjoy it. I asked to actually work on the MonsterVerse if it came up. I asked the people at Titan who do the novelizations after seeing Kong Skull Island. That's sort of how I got into this. I actually specifically asked, which I've never done before with the licensed work. And I think this movie pays off pretty well.
Drew, Robert, have you both seen it yet?
I haven't yet. I missed out on the drive-in experience the other night, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would say is, for me at least, I joined Legendary Comics full-time in 2014, which was the year our first Godzilla came out. And at that time, 7 years ago, it was like a plan was already laid. Like, we're going to do Godzilla, we're going to do Kong, and then we're going to do Godzilla versus Kong. And of course, growing up as a fan of the original movies, I was like, yeah, this is fantastic, and here we are 7 years later. And it's just cool to have kind of experienced that whole journey at the company. And I know how hard everyone has worked, obviously, on the film side. And it's been fun to be kind of in lockstep on the publishing side with every movie and adding to the mythology with these stories and these amazing creators on this panel. So it's just gratifying to be here for Godzilla versus Kong, and they fight, and the promise of the premise in the title, I think, more than pays off.
Yep, that's right. That's true.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
And Marie, obviously you read the script and you were moved by it.
Yeah, no, I genuinely, I have a lot of friends who are big fans of MonsterVerse and like kaiju and titans and monsters in general. And it's been so hard. I've been sworn to secrecy this whole time. So I'm really excited to be able to share this now with my friends who, after they see the movie, I'll get to talk to them about it. I look forward to seeing it myself. And really, like, without giving anything away, the thing that I took away from it was like, when I got to the end of the script, I was like, oh, like, of course, like that's how it's supposed to be. So I think people are really going to have a lot of fun.
Terrific. See, Drew, we didn't spoil it for you. We didn't tell you who won, Godzilla or Kong.
And I'm grateful. Honestly, I'm really waiting for it. I mean, I just can't wait to catch it in a couple of days here.
Excellent. Well, once again, for everybody, congratulations on the prequel graphic novels. You know what? I can't wait to talk to all of you again for your future projects. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Thanks
Thank
so much,
you.
Gabe.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.